So you hit $1 million in net worth. Congratulations. You're rich now, right? Wrong. You're not rich. You're responsible. And if you don't understand the difference, you're about to make some very expensive mistakes. What's up, everyone? It's Mo Param here. And today we need to talk about something that no one tells you when you're building wealth. The game completely changes after you hit certain milestones. And I'm not talking about lifestyle changes or you can finally buy that fancy coffee. I'm talking about the fact that the strategies that got you to $1 million are not the same strategies that keep you at $1 million. Today we're breaking down 3 wealth levels: 1 million, 2 to 3 million, and 4 to 5 million, and the specific responsibilities, mistakes, and strategy shifts that happen at each level. And look, if you're not at these levels, don't click away, because understanding what's coming helps you prepare now so you don't have to make those mistakes later. So let's get into it. Okay, so you hit $1 million. That feels amazing. And I'm not going to take that away from you. That is a huge accomplishment that most people never reach. But here's the cold, hard math. Using the 4% rule, which is pretty standard for retirement planning, $1 million generates about $40,000 per year in sustainable income before taxes. Now, if you're currently spending $40,000 a year, awesome, you're done. You can retire, go and enjoy your life. But here's the problem. Most people who have $1 million aren't living on $40,000 a year. They're living on $100,000, $150,000. Some are spending $200,000 per year. Think about it. Mortgage, property taxes, car payment, insurance, kids' activities, date nights, travel, healthcare, the list goes on and on. So that $1 million, it's not I'm rich money, it's I'm responsible money. So what changes when you hit $1 million? 3 big things. Number 1, your tax life gets complicated. You're no longer just dealing with W-2 income. Now you might have regular income, bonus income, RSUs vesting, maybe rental properties, capital gains from investments, maybe business income. Suddenly, you've got income coming from 5 or 6 different places, all taxed differently. That $40,000 you thought you had, well, after taxes, it might be $30,000. Well, congratulations, you're living below the poverty line in retirement. Number 2, you need adult supervision. And by that, I mean insurance, real insurance. We're talking about umbrella policies, proper liability coverage, life insurance if people depend on you, disability insurance if you're still working. Because here's the thing, lawsuits don't care about your net worth. Well, actually, that's not true. They care a lot about your net worth. The more you have, the bigger target you become. Number 3, estate planning becomes real. At $1 million, you need an actual will, not just my spouse gets everything. You need power of attorney documents, healthcare directives, and if you have kids, guardianship plans. Because if something happens to you and you don't have these documents, the state decides what happens to your money. And the state doesn't know your family like you do. Here's what most people don't understand. At $1 million, the biggest change isn't your lifestyle, it's your exposure. You have more accounts to manage, more tax decisions to make, more legal liability, more people affected by your choices. The mistake is thinking I've arrived. The truth is, you just entered a new game with different rules. So what do you actually do at this level? Well, here's a quick checklist. Get an umbrella policy, usually $1 to $2 million in coverage. Create or update your estate documents. Establish a cash reserve policy, maybe 3 to 12 months depending on your income stability. Set up a tax planning cadence. At minimum, annual reviews. These aren't sexy. They won't make you more rich, but they'll prevent you from becoming less rich, which at this level is the whole point. All right, so $1 million is responsible. What about $2 to $3 million? That's where you can actually think about financial independence, right? Well, I'd say yes and no. And the no part is where people get absolutely wrecked. Let's do the math again. So $2 million at 4% equals $80,000 per year. $3 million at 4% equals $120,000 per year. Okay? So now we're talking about real money. This actually starts to feel like freedom. And that's exactly the problem. Because at this level, you start thinking, I could retire, I could stop working, I could finally relax. And this is the most dangerous mindset you can have because $2 to $3 million is what I like to call the tweener zone. You have enough to feel safe, but not enough to be careless. Here's what happens at $2 to $3 million. And I've watched this so many times. I've watched this happen to so many people. You start making we deserve it purchases. We deserve a second home. We deserve nicer cars. We deserve private school for our kids. We deserve first class travel. And look, none of these things are wrong. I'm not judging your choices. Spend money on what matters to you. But here's the trap. If your fixed lifestyle expenses expand faster than your investable assets, you don't create freedom. You create a more expensive life that requires a more expensive job. Let me give you a real life example. I've seen people with 2.5 million who feel wealthy, but they built a lifestyle that cost 200,000 plus after taxes to maintain. So let's do the math. 200,000 after taxes equals roughly $275,000 pre-tax, depending on your state. So to generate $275,000 from investments, you need about 6.9 million. They have 2.5. Do you see the problem? They're not financially independent. They're financially dependent on their income continuing indefinitely. They feel rich, but they're trapped. So what actually matters at $2 to $3 million level? The shift number one, tax location becomes critical. This is where you need to start thinking about what goes in your Roth account, what goes in your pre-tax accounts, what stays in taxable accounts. The difference between getting this right and getting it wrong could be tens of thousands of dollars in taxes over your lifetime, maybe even hundreds of thousands. Shift number two, you need a withdrawal strategy. Even if you're not retiring yet, you need to start planning. What will you sell first in a downturn? How will you manage required minimum distributions? What's your tax-efficient withdrawal sequence? Shift number three, Social Security timing matters. When you claim Social Security, you can change your lifetime benefits by $100,000 or more. At this wealth level, you can actually afford to optimize the timing instead of just taking it at 62 because you need the money. Shift number four, healthcare planning before Medicare. If you're thinking about retiring before 65, healthcare costs are real. We're talking $15,000 to $25,000 per year for a couple. That alone could blow up your withdrawal rate. Here's the thing no one tells you. This level requires more discipline than the early years, not less. When you had $100,000, every dollar mattered. You tracked it, you budgeted, you were intentional. At $2 to $3 million, it's easy to just get lazy. What's $5,000 here? What's $10,000 there? We can afford it until you can't. The discipline that got you here, you need more of it, not less. All right, $4 to $5 million. Now we're getting somewhere. 4 million at 4% equals $160,000 per year. 5 million at 4% equals $200,000 per year. For a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, this is where work becomes a choice, not a necessity. You can keep working because you love it, or take a year off, go part-time, start that passion project that doesn't make money, or finally tell your boss what you really think of their brilliant new initiative. I'm kidding, don't do the last one. But here's what people don't realize. At this level, you're not just managing investments anymore. You're operating like the CFO of your own family. At 4 to 5 million, you're managing a balance sheet with multiple asset classes, accounts, properties, businesses. You're managing a risk profile with insurance, liability, asset protection structures. You're managing a tax strategy that involves coordinating CPAs, tax attorneys, possibly multi-state complexity. And you're managing a legacy plan with trusts, beneficiary structures, family governance, teaching the next generation. One bad decision at this level can cost you more than your first decade of saving. So what do wealthy people actually do differently? They spend intentionally. They pay up for what matters. They cut ruthlessly what doesn't. They think total cost of ownership. Not can I afford the payment, but what's this going to cost me over 5 to 10 years? They use debt strategically, not emotionally. Not because I can, but when it mathematically makes sense. They protect assets before problems arise. Umbrella policies, LLCs, trusts, legal structures, all the boring stuff that prevents catastrophic losses. They teach the next generation because if your kids don't understand money, your wealth won't last past your lifetime. But here's the trap at this level: analysis paralysis. You have so many options that you freeze. Should you do a Roth conversion, start a business, buy real estate, invest in a syndication, create a trust, pay off my mortgage? And the answer is, well, it depends on your specific situation, which is why at this level, most people need a team. A great CPA who does proactive tax planning, an attorney who understands estate and asset protection, a financial planner who coordinates everything. Not because you can't do it yourself, but because the cost of getting it wrong is too high. All right, so let's close with mistakes, because sometimes avoiding big mistakes is more valuable than chasing big returns. At $1 to $2 million, the done mentality. You stop contributing, stop growing because you made it. No estate docs, you die without a will, and the state decides who gets your money. Bad risk posture. Either you're too conservative out of fear or you're too aggressive out of your ego. There's no stress test. You have no idea what happens if the market drops 30%. At $2 to $4 million, your lifestyle inflation. Your spending grows faster than your assets. Poor tax location. You're spending tens of thousands in unnecessary taxes. Insurance gaps. You're one lawsuit away from losing everything. And DIY too long. You try to do everything yourself when you need a team. 4 to 5 million and beyond, analysis paralysis. So many options that you do nothing. Unnecessary taxes. There's no proactive planning, which means you're leaving 6 figures on the table. Not preparing your heirs. Secrecy now equals family disasters later. And losing purpose. You've built wealth, but forgot why. But here's the mistake that happens at every level: comparison. Comparison makes high earners feel behind. It pushes smart people into dumb decisions. It makes you buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to be secure, flexible, and intentional. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Every $1 million you accumulate is a new level of responsibility, not luxury, not freedom from decisions, but responsibility. The skills that built your wealth aren't the same skills that keep it. You need to upgrade your strategy as your wealth upgrades. Here's a quick stress test for you. If the market drops 25% this year, interest rates stay elevated, and you have an unexpected $30,000 expense, do you feel stable? If the answer is, I'm not sure, you don't need to panic. You need a plan. That's the difference between being wealthy and being responsible. So the question isn't, am I rich? The question is, am I managing this level of wealth with the sophistication it requires? If your net worth is over $1 million and you haven't reviewed your taxes, estate plan, risk management, and withdrawal strategy in the last 12 months, that's your next step. Not because something's wrong, because this is what responsibility looks like at this level. All right, that's it for today. If you found this valuable, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment letting me know what net worth level you want me to cover next. Should you go higher, 5 to 10 million? Or should we cover $500 to $1 million range? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stay informed, stay empowered, and stay successful.